Hi, it's Adam from RealHomeRecording.com. This is the final video in the pro quality music recording in an attic series. If you've been watching the other videos, thank you. If you haven't already, check them out. I'll put them on the screen right now. Well, this is going to wrap it up. Vocals. Vocals are the last thing I record. It makes sense because you got to have all the music in. I mean, you don't have to have all the music in, but it's nice to. So I'm going to show you how to record vocals, how I record vocals to get the best sound quality at a modest budget, I would say, considering your $1 million studios or whatever. Like, it's amazing to me what I was able to do with just a keyboard, a computer, a pair of speakers, less than $200, a little bit of software. Like, that's really the key ingredient is the software. And now a typical vocal microphone, one that's, if you buy it used, it's not too expensive. Nowadays it's a little bit on the expensive side. It didn't used to be. It was $350, now it's $400 if you buy it new. But yeah, it's a vocal microphone that I love. It's a Shure SM7B. I use it on, there's been a few videos where I didn't use it as my voiceover microphone, and it showed. My voice just didn't sound like I expected to sound using other microphones. So, I use it on a variety of singers because it just simply sounds good. It doesn't work with everybody's voice, especially people with very deep voices, but for people who have nasally voices like myself, or it's like, I guess your typical voice sounds fine on this microphone. And so the first step to getting great vocals in a home studio is to find a room that has a minimum of reflections. Now, that doesn't mean record in the closet. I've seen this advice before, record in the closet. No, because that will deaden the vocal tonality of the sound. Acoustics is everything when it comes to real recording, where you're not recording directly, plugging a guitar into the interface or plugging a keyboard output into the interface. Like, that's easy. We have a physical room, so if I were to record this in a bathroom, a large bathroom with a bunch of towels and no carpet, obviously, and your typical large bathroom, it's not going to sound that good. Actually, I have a video coming up where I'm going to show that, the importance of choosing the right room. So the way that I work, the way that I figure out, is a room too reverberant for vocals, is I do a clap test. Now, I can hear that flutter echo, but that's okay because it's not like the flutter echo of, again, a tiled bathroom or a large kitchen or a castle, So this room works well. I've used it to record, let's see, like 3 vocals on music. Like I said, plenty of voiceovers. Now, the problem with my voiceover setup is, as you can see, I got a desk right here. And what tends to happen is you get the sound waves bouncing off the desk. You get the sound waves bouncing off the computer monitor. Now that's less of an effect, but it's still there. But you hear it. You can hear it, especially if you're wearing headphones. You can hear the sound waves bouncing off. And you can also hear phase cancellation, which is basically when you combine, like if you were to drop 2 pennies into like a bathtub or water or whatever, throw 2 rocks in water at the same time, and you see those water waves hitting into each other, well, it's the same thing. They cancel each other out. The 2 waves cancel each other out. So for this, because I want as clean of a recording as possible, I'm going to record away from walls, away from surfaces, and it should sound better than my typical voiceover. Now, if you're new to the clap test, it's best to record with an omnidirectional microphone. It's better than cardioid for this test. So again, you just record a single clap, and I'll switch to the camera mic when I do this. And that's how you judge a room's acoustics, at least, by ear. It's something that I used to do all the time when I was shooting movies, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't getting too many reflections off the walls. So if we were, sound blankets right off screen worked really well, as long as lights weren't being blocked. But yeah, there's a lot of bad rooms, so a lot of times you just have to do what's called ADR, and there's no way around it. But yeah, that's what I used to do. Anytime I go into a real house, or some kind of real environment, even a sound studio, a sound stage, you have to test out the acoustics. If you're the sound person, you have to test out the acoustics, and the clap test is the best way to do it, in my opinion. Again, I'm gonna warn you guys, because this comes up. Do not make a vocal booth that is just filled with acoustic foam. That is gonna it's gonna deaden the vocals. I can't say it enough. Actually, sometimes I know that in some studios they'll record in the control room, because the control room has just the right amount of acoustic foam up, or the better case, fiberglass panels up on the walls, and it's much better. But if you're gonna make your own vocal booth, then use a minimum of fiberglass panels, like just like one little bit per wall, and you should be okay. But also, if you do make a vocal booth, make sure the ceiling's relatively high. In this room, I would estimate that the ceiling's about 8 foot high, and as you can see, the walls are not parallel. Well, they're parallel, you can't, behind the desk, and then hitting across, but the ceiling itself is not parallel to the carpet, because it arches, or it comes up like this. So because it's an attic, it's literally an attic. This room is an attic, so it works well. In my opinion, it works really well because of that. It has a dry sound, but it's still, there's still life in it. If you were to go into I made this mistake early on. I was like, oh, well, let's just record in the dead room. Oh God, awful. One song was recorded in the dead room, and after that, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to record in the dead room for some purposes. Like, for example, like a guitar amp might be okay, just to minimize the reflections, and because the microphone's so close, it might not make that much of a bit difference anyway. But I still think recording in a livelier room that doesn't have as much echo, and even if it does have a little bit of echo, it's better than recording in a dead room. Okay, the second thing you're going to run into when recording vocals is what's known as plosives. And that is any time that somebody says a P word or a B word, or sometimes the T word, when the T word is a common plosive issue when you're using a lavalier microphone like I have one right now. So, t. That's actually a test I do. This is a secret, by the way. If anybody mics up anybody with... I do a test. I didn't do it for myself because I have to actually be on camera for this, so it's just a matter of, it's a lot easier when you're behind the camera and you have headphones on and you're miking somebody else up to make sure that they don't have plosive issues. So if they do, then there's a few things you can do. Obviously, moving the microphone around is the first step. If that doesn't work for some reason, my microphone came with a little accessory that goes on top of it, and I also have, and you guys may have seen this during the API tour, I have this furry accessory that goes on this mic. The other thing to do is there's something called a vampire clip. I don't have one myself. I've been meaning to buy one for the longest time, but a vampire clip allows you to hide the microphone right behind the collar, and when you hide it underneath clothing, the clothing acts as a pop filter. In the case of what we're doing today, I'm going to do two different things. I'm going to try two different methods of minimizing plosives. Number one, I'm going to record with my Stedman ProScreen XL pop filter, which is different from your typical pop filter in that it's made out of metal. I know that the ring is made out of metal, but I think the actual the vents in it, we'll call them, are made out of metal as well. And what it does is it redirects the air. If you blow into it, the air is redirected. You can feel it being redirected downward. So that's what I use for voiceovers. So I'll do that first. But then the other issue is, some people say, well, the Pro Screen XL can color the sound. So the second thing I'm going to do is record off axis, meaning the microphone's going to be at about a 45-degree angle from my mouth and out of the way of wind. Another thing, before I forget, another tip: what distance from the microphone capsule to the lips? And a good rule of thumb is literally you put your thumb on your lip, and then where your pinky is where the microphone capsule should be. Another tip, I haven't tried this personally, but another plosive tip is you can take a rubber band and put a pencil right in the middle, and so that basically that blocks the wind from hitting the diaphragm. So if you don't have a pop filter, you don't want to record off axis, try the pencil trick. The other important thing, and I briefly talked about this, but microphone choice is super important when it comes to vocals because everybody has a different, voice. So what may sound good when one person may sound completely horrible on another person. And I used to be a fan of large diaphragm condenser microphones, but you really need to spend a good amount of money to buy a decent one. And that's just the truth. Unless somebody else out there knows of a good one, because all the ones that I've ever used have problems with harsh frequencies that the Shure SM7B doesn't have. So, but what I would do is audition different microphones. So put different microphones in front of your singer, and you can just really, do this with more than one microphone at a time and see which one they sound best on. And do it while you're running effects through their voice, because when you go to mix, that's exactly what's going to happen. So I'll shove and you'll see it later on, an LA2A emulation. I'll shove a tape plug-in. I'll shove a 1176 plug-in. If I had one, I would do an LA3A instead of a 2A. And Waves RVox is another go-to compressor plugin, and then I'll EQ it. So see what sounds the best with compression, because when you compress vocals, that's where the nastiness comes out. Like really, that's where the nastiness comes out, because raw, it can sound one way, and then once you start compressing, it'll sound a complete different way. That's why I EQ after I compress when it comes to vocals. And actually EQing before doing compression on any instrument is a good idea. The other thing about condenser microphones is that they tend to capture more of the room than a dynamic microphone would. Also, ribbon microphones are essentially like dynamic microphones, except they don't like phantom power. And by that I mean you can possibly destroy them by running phantom power through them. But ribbon microphones are another interesting choice that I haven't tried yet. Now, if you don't have a vocal booth, one of the options you can do, there's these different, they're basically foam that wraps around and you can mount it on your stand so that it's behind the microphone. I don't have one of those, but it's an interesting choice. They cost between like $100 to $250, I think. So I don't have any experience with them, but I've heard good things. And especially if your room is way too lively or you don't have many rooms to record in, it's a good choice, I would guess. Okay, now here are some other accessories that are good for recording vocals. I'm just going to read off my tablet here. Room temperature water. Don't give a singer ice water. Don't give them water from the refrigerator. Room temperature is better. Throat coat tea, and add honey, because apparently throat coat tea tastes nasty. The other thing the other thing to try is throat comfort. Now, I haven't used any of these products, but I've heard that the tea is what Taylor Swift uses. I don't know. Again, I've never used this stuff. I'm not a singer, so I've never tried it, but I can understand why. A boom stand with sandbags. And it's important because some microphones can weigh a bit and they will cause your stand to fall over. So if you counterweight it, by putting just like a little 5-pound sandbag on the other end of it, that will stop it from making your stand fall completely over. A headphone amp or an extension cable. Now you saw that in the acoustic guitar video, and maybe I'll show it on screen right now, maybe not, but it's very important to have some way for your musician or yourself to easily adjust the volume. Now, in this case, I don't have a choice, but I've seen in bigger studios, they will actually have a cheap little mixing board for the musician so that they can adjust EQ, they can adjust the volume, and they don't have to tell the engineer, hey, it's too loud. They could just say, okay, well, that's good. They can adjust it themselves. And I think it's always the better option to give the musician what they need. Now, you still need to send them different mixes. So like, if they need the bass guitar up louder, they need a kick drum up louder, or whatever up louder, you have to do that on your end, but on their end, they can control the overall volume and equalization. Speaking of the monitor mix, so if you guys have been following along with the video series, I've been EQing and compressing on the way in. Well, not really on the way in, but in software. So I virtually simulated a outboard recording chain in software. And that's important because when it comes time to record vocals, if your music sounds dull and uninteresting, the vocalist might not give a good performance because they can't get into the song. But if they already have a song that almost sounds like it's mixed already, then they can get into it more. And again, I'll say this, back in the day, when tape machines were used all the time, that's how things were recorded, because the engineers had to avoid tape noise, So they had to do certain things to tape, including increasing the high frequency response, because as tape goes over a tape head, the high end starts getting reduced. So whatever was recorded first, they would record with, it's called pre-emphasis. So you would emphasize the high frequencies so that somewhere down the line, after you've run it over the tape, after you've run the tape over the tape heads enough times, you didn't lose that high end response. But again, mainly it was to combat noise, but it also allowed engineers to just, commit to a sound, which is very, very important. A lot of producers, they don't like committing to a sound too early, but it ends up saving you time. And again, the vocalist has a better song to sing over top of. Okay, so now I'm going to set up the monitor mix, and that includes inserts and sends for reverb and delay, which I may or may not use, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So right now, go to that screen capture. All right, here's our vocal session that I haven't modified since the acoustic guitar was recorded. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a track, Control T, and I'll call this vocals-simple song. And all right, let's see what it is. Check. Well, I'm not going to have my singing levels because I'm speaking right now, but approximately this is where it should go, right? So the next thing I want to do is add either a send or an insert. Now, I'll do a send just to show you it, but when I do this for real, I'm going to put it as an insert. So the first thing I want to do is go to I/O, and I could just, since it's called a send, I'll show you it under send. So I'll hit I/O on the vocals track, and then under the sends menu right here, I'm going to choose the newest track. And actually, I'll call this vocal reverb. So if I were to do that again, so you can see vocal reverb is on there. And then what I'm going to do is add a reverb effect that has no latency. And that is key. I need a zero latency reverb plugin. And the one that I use is Voxengo Old School Verb. And here it is. So what this does is, obviously, it's reverb. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to make it 100% wet. So just click dry mute and it should work. Now what I want to do is enable record monitoring. Make sure this is off for right now. See how it's muted? But you can see the meter, so it's recording. But if I were to unmute it, I don't know what would happen. Check, check. I can't hear it. Oh, that's right, because my headphones are down. So I had my headphones off and down. So if I click that, now it's green. And then once I turn it up, oh, I can hear it, but it's only coming out of the right. And that's the headphones' fault. Hold on. So now I can hear my voice. And it sounds quite muddy on these headphones. But I'm using these because, well, I don't want my vocals, I don't want my music to bleed into the vocal microphone. It's as simple as that. Okay, so I'm going to mute that for now. And then go back to here and turn it on in the software. And that, and that's not good. Whoa. Okay. Apparently I can't do that. Okay, well, I'm going to do it a different way then. So I'm actually going to disable this. Man, this sucks because voice meter was the way I was going to do things. So I can disable this on here and it should let me do it. So let me try that. Okay, it won't let me do it, plus my air conditioner just turned on. So what I'm going to do is record a vocal sample. See, normally, you guys aren't dealing with this screen capture crap when you're doing this. I have to, and it makes my life complicated, okay? So what I'm going to do, I didn't want to do it this way, but I'm going to record a dry vocal sample and then adjust from there. I don't have a choice. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's listen to what we have. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? That's the Verizon wireless slogan. Now they're going to sue me. Nah, probably not. All right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? You know, the problem with the way I have to do this because of the screen capture is that normally I would have this up. Check, check. And see, I can do it right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I don't know the way this screen capture stuff works, but I can hear it. And there's a slight delay, not a huge delay. But what I would normally do is I would have the automatic monitor. I would have the monitoring on so that I could hear the send. Now, I don't know if that would work. Check, 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 check. There. Ooh, it works. Let's see if this will work now. Check. Check. Nope. I mean, it worked, but it fed back like a MFer. Check. Okay, so this works. And there's no feedback. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Oh, it started the feedback. Check, check. Okay, let me do one of these. So that's annoying. Okay, so now I can just hear this. And that's okay. I can actually amplify it a little bit more that way. See? And now I can really bring it up. And man, I can hear the computer noise and everything now. Check. Okay. I don't know how loud I am, but with that, you know, these drum headphones, they really do a good job of isolating things. Okay, so my next step, I want to, hopefully this is not going to kill my ears. Check, check. I'll bring it down just in case. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Check. Nah, I gotta, because of the screen capture, I can't bring it up any higher. I don't know if you can hear the feedback, but yeah, it's starting to feedback and that's not good. So what I'm going to do is actually adjust this so that I can hear the live interface audio mixed in with this. And like I said, guys, the important thing is if you're going to use reverb or delay, use one that has 0 sample latency. See that? See 0 out of 0 samples? Now, it's still not perfect because the audient can only go to a maximum of 128 samples at 96 kilohertz. If you go here, let's see. So right there, I can actually go lower because I'm on 441, but I've done latency tests on this stuff, and 96 kilohertz at 128 samples is the fastest this interface operates at. So it'll be a little bit better when I am recording for real, and unfortunately I can't use the screen capture software at the same time, but it'll be a little bit better. And I don't know if Voice Meter, this program here, I don't know if this puts out the live feed and my voice, but if there's phasing going on, I apologize. I'm going to mute that right now in case there is. But yeah, so basically all I do is I go through and adjust it so that the reverb is not too overpowering and it just blends in with the live vocal feed. And then I go from there. Now, I might not even use reverb when I'm recording. I might find it too distracting. But some singers like to have reverb because they hate the way their dry voice sounds. But I've heard my dry voice so many times, it doesn't bother me. Plus, for timing, it'll help. So for those reasons, I'm probably going to just disable delay and reverb. Also, Voxengo has another cool 0 latency plugin, tempo delay. And I would actually put this on another send, not the same one. So I would have it, if I were doing this for real, vocal delay. I'm probably, okay. And then IO, receive, vocals. And then I would adjust it accordingly. Dry mute being the first thing I disable. But yeah, definitely check these plugins out. They're free, and I believe Voxengo, if they don't have a donate button, then they have plenty of paid software that you can show your appreciation for if you like their plugins. So I'll delete this since I know I'm not going to use a delay. But yeah, guys, so that's about it for the vocal setup. Now, I do need to, once I get over to the microphone stand, not the one at my desk, but the one in it's the center of the width of the room, I will need to make sure that my levels are where I want them to be. But now, I guess I can show this to you now. If this were a real recording chain, I would actually have EQ on my voice. I would have a compressor, maybe 2 compressors in serial, taking care of compression duties. But because I don't have the real hardware and because these compressor plugins add latency, I'm not going to use them. Also, somebody told me it might be distracting for a singer to be listening to a compressed vocal feed. So if you can, even if I had the hardware, it would be better for the singer to be monitoring themselves dry besides the reverb. So that's interesting. It's an interesting way of doing things. Like I said, I do have a really nice compressor, and the way I would use that out of the chain, I'm not sure. I guess I would split. Man, that's a good question. I mean, I guess I could get like a radial microphone splitter box, and then that would make sure that the signal doesn't get screwed up. But besides that, I can't think of any other way to do it without messing up the signal. So anyway, let's get to recording the vocals. Oh yeah.